This is a short presentation that sits alongside the school's discipline policy. The aim of this presentation is to explain how restorative approaches are used at Marlborough to build and nurture relationships, and where necessary, to repair fragile relationships. So why restorative approaches at Marlborough? The school's behaviour policy needed to be reviewed. And when starting to look at the whole school approach, restorative practices fits in logically and naturally with the work that's already embedded with positive relationships. Restorative approaches just brings consistency into our practices across the school.
Our post-pandemic school environment has brought with it new challenges for both pupils and staff. In order to equip our children for the future, we believe restorative approaches to discipline will provide lifelong skills in conflict resolution, self-reflection, and the opportunity to take accountability for individual actions or harm. Amanda Spielman, Ofsted's Chief Inspector, was interviewed for The Guardian in April this year. She said, "In schools, Ofsted found the pandemic was continuing to affect pupils' knowledge and mental health, with leaders reporting lower resilience and confidence, and increased anxiety and disruptive behaviour." Spielman said the pandemic and lockdowns have resulted in delays in learning speech and language, problems with social interaction and confidence, such as not knowing how to take turns and struggling to make friends. We have a duty to realign our practice to meet the needs of all our children, to allow them to make both mistake and amends in a supportive environment. The following statistics make for bleak reading and sit alongside catastrophising headlines about a generation of lost learners. We can, as a school, make a choice to carry on as we were pre-COVID, or to acknowledge this altered landscape and adapt our policies. Restorative approaches gives us the tools to take both individual and collective responsibility for the well-being and social development of the children in our care, ensuring that we have a consistent and robust practice which provides opportunities to make positive connections as well as tackling unwanted behaviours. Restorative approaches will support our children develop resilience, strategies for emotional self-regulation, and ultimately promote an environment where children feel valued. Without strong relationships at the very foundation of our practice, children simply won't learn. Teaching is no longer just about curriculum content. In March 2021, the Education Trust wrote, "Students who have access to strong relationships are more academically engaged, have stronger social skills, and experience more positive behaviour. Strong relationships provide a foundation for student engagement, belonging, and ultimately learning."
The phrase, "it takes a village to raise a child," originates from an African proverb and conveys the message that it takes many people, the village, to provide a safe, healthy environment for children, where children are given the security they need to develop and flourish and be able to realise their hopes and dreams. This requires an environment where children's voices are taken seriously and where multiple people, the villagers, including parents, siblings, extended family members, neighbours, teachers, professionals, community members and policymakers care for a child. All these villagers may provide direct care to the child and or support the parent in looking after their children. If you reflect for a moment on a time when you were punished as a child for making a mistake, I'm sure that however many years later, you still remember clearly not only what happened, but also how you felt. When I've undertaken a similar exercise with the staff here at Marlborough, words such as shame, embarrassment, fear, humiliation, scared crop up time and time again. As head teacher, this is not how I want any child at Marlborough to ever feel. We all make mistakes and bad choices from time to time. What is important is that we learn that our choices have consequences. At Marlborough, we have an individual and collective responsibility in ensuring that we raise healthy, confident individuals ready to lead fulfilling lives as valued members of society in our Marlborough village. In embedding restorative approaches, the main difference is moving from, simply put, finding a way to make pupils want the change instead of forcing it on them. We need to hear what they are telling us through their behaviour and use that to guide them in a different direction. Authoritarian or punitive systems require the blame to be assigned to one party and punishment given to address the behaviour. However, punitive consequences mean creating a temporary bandage for an issue. They do very little when it comes to unveiling the full story and bringing all of the issues to the forefront. The carrot and stick discipline does not cause lasting changes. It's an immediate response to a behaviour and often leads to a forced change in behaviour. For example, if you want a rabbit to get in a hole, you smack it with a stick. You can also use motivation and dangle a carrot over the opening until the rabbit is tripped and falls into the hole. But neither of these teaches the rabbit the value of going into the hole. Neither method makes the rabbit actually want to go in the hole. Further, both tactics are a little bit unfair. The rabbit doesn't see the hole until he falls into it. Likewise, if we either force or incentivize children to change, we don't teach the children the reason for the change, and we don't explore why the child was acting the way they were in the first place. Holding pupils directly and personally responsible for their behaviour sparks intrinsic change. Mediation gives pupils insight into the real impact of their behaviour. Combine them with restorative practices and you have the formula for empathy, positive culture and lasting change. The restorative conversation is used to support pupils when harm is being caused. The conversation is facilitated by a member of staff, most usually the class teacher or teaching assistant. The victim or victims and perpetrator or perpetrators are brought together into a restorative circle. The following questions are asked of each person in the circle. What happened? What were you thinking at the time? What were you feeling? Who else has been affected? How? What do you need? And what do you want to happen next in order to repair the harm and move forward? As part of the restorative circle, a suitable consequence for the perpetrator is discussed and agreed.
Restorative conversations allow us to acknowledge that all behaviour communicates a need. If we ignore this need or fail to offer curiosity, we shouldn't be surprised if the behaviours are repeated or indeed escalate. Restorative practices take time, patience, resilience, and are not the easy option. However, if we continue to use a one-size-fits-all approach to behaviour, to ignore the messages that behaviour presents, we are complicit in adding to the ever-growing statistics for exclusion, followed by prison terms, or as we have already seen, mental illness and suicide. We must acknowledge the individual, their experiences and their emotional and social development. As Trauma Informed Schools UK advocates, we must go hard on the behaviour, but gentle on the child.
So at Marlborough, we aim to establish and maintain regular check-ins and check-outs with pupils to build and sustain empathetic relationships with all of our children. We aim to ensure that all pupils are supported to develop the language capacity to describe a wide range of emotions and feelings. We aim to use restorative circles and restorative conversations to repair relationships and support pupils to take full responsibility for their actions. We aim to use weekly PSHE activities and relationship building activities with each class to ensure that every pupil feels cared for, listened to and understood. We aim to understand the importance of meeting a child's emotional age or capacity when dealing with restorative approaches. And we aim to train in and support pupil mental health.